Good morning. Great to see you all. Yeah, so very excited about this panel because we just had that amazing keynote on Deepen, and that Deepen space is taking off right now. And we have a panel here with 3 amazing projects building Deepens in the space, all of them building those solutions before Deepen was a thing. So they identified there are problems that can be solved using the technology, and now that space gets a name, and of course with the name comes hype, investment, and all of that, which is great for projects. Yeah, so next to me is Frederick Nachbauer, one of the co-founders of eLoop. eLoop started many years ago, and they are the first ever company to tokenize a fleet of Teslas and enable a community to invest and earn from those Teslas. There's Ali Reza Ghods. Ali is one of the co-founders of Natix, and Natix builds the Internet of Cameras. You can really think of crowdsourcing cameras all around the world, and there are incredible use cases you can build with that. We will dive into that in a little bit. And we have Daniel Dietz, the COO of Blocksmove. Blocksmove is building a mobility platform coming out of Daimler, a spin-out, so been around for a long time, really building a Web3 mobility platform with also many incredible different applications that you can build there. Cool. So let's get back to Deepen, and let's start with Deepen, because it's been January this year when I heard the term Deepen for the very first time. And that was actually in a call with Ali. Like, we had our first call, and he was telling me about, hey, you guys are building a layer 1 for Deepen. And then I'm like, okay, what is this? So I jumped into it, looked into it. But yeah, my first question is to you, Ali. Could you please tell us, from your perspective, what is Deepen and how it emerged?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I also remember that. I mean, the guys from Peak, you guys were building Deepen, as you said. It just was a different name, which also I really like it. It's economy of things, which could be even a bigger umbrella than what originally was coined as Deepen. But essentially, Deepen, decentralized physical infrastructure, the way that I would define it is that you can build any physical infrastructure, preferably digital physical infrastructure, in a crowdsourced way, which is also tokenized, and you can build it 10 to 100 times faster. So what kind of digital infrastructures do we have? We have connectivity. You guys might all have heard of Helium. I think they were one of the earliest guys that started to build a connectivity infrastructure. LoRaWAN. You can think of storage, computing. I think we just had a talk about it. Natix is a sensor networks, and then you can have this whole ecosystem. But essentially, it was kind of it got a lot of attention because you could build this infrastructure much faster, much cheaper, and then it also comes with its own perks, right? It's kind of censorship proof, and you know it has additional added value as well for the users. It reduces the cost for the end users in terms of using that infrastructure or using the data that the infrastructure is producing. So yeah, that's how I would define Deepen.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, so because I think the most important part is, and like I said in the beginning, all of you have built Deepens before Deepens was a thing and was a term. So you guys saw real problems that can be solved building Deepen models. And yeah, I'd love to hear from all of you which problems specifically you guys managed to solve using the Deepen model, and then, yeah, like why this is important and why this creates real world value. Maybe Frederick, to start with you.
Yeah, so when we started, we're not sure if everybody really wants to know, like, how long does a car drives, like how much kilometers it take, is it only the revenue that people are interested in? And like doing it after like 1 or 2 years, like people were actually really looking into having that transparency. They actually they loved it. Basically, they were always looking into it. We're checking like how are the stats of our Teslas, and I think that's like one of these things. Like we can now save data on these machines, and we can, like, everything is like basically on a public ledger. You can check it out, and every transaction is proven, and I think that's what helps us a lot. And on top of that, also like giving away the ownership, like not being like the one that is distributing revenue, like basically using a smart contract and then just like moving it around and seeing the assets as like this non-fungible token where people can like participate in it. I really think that's basically what people want. And I think now, like, the time is right for that. People understand it. People know, okay, I can buy into it. I can really participate, and nobody can take it away from me, basically. So that's one thing. And for us, I mean, the other thing is like the capex. We can give it away. Like, people can start participating in our revenue stream and be like a stakeholder without like we always needing to have like this huge amount of liquidity, and can actually participate in a market where only like the big players are right now. And so I think, yeah, that's these two things I kind of like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to quickly add there, right? You are competing against big OEMs, now, and so on. You're competing against players who have many tens of millions to invest in their physical infrastructure fleet. And with the Deepen model, you basically can flip it around, and you crowdsource the capital, and then you can actually disrupt big players, right? And telco, this is happening. Building a telco network costs billions, and the Deepen model enables to basically crowd fund and bootstrap that network. Cool. Yeah. Dani.
Yeah, so real power to the real people, right? You are fighting, as you said, with the big companies, and you are empowering the small investors that can play a role. This is something similar to what we are doing. We are a mobility company, so basically creating a platform that allows aggregation and different mobility services to be running on top of that. We are collaborating with Peak, and we are empowering our business layer, let's say, to empower all the access control, ticketing, payment, and so on. And our first use case is decentralized Uber, right? So this is ride-hailing system, which is pretty big, pretty important, but till some extent is limited, because you are talking to a real person on the other side, and that's all. And most of the mobility services does not work like that. If you take a metro, if you rent a e-scooter, if you rent a car, if you buy a plane ticket, wherever, you are not talking to a real person behind. You are talking to a machine. And this machine is not in the Web3 space. And it has never been. So for me, the biggest advantage of Deepin is the connection between the Web3 world and the Web2 world. Because we can be here really optimistic about Web3, but when compared to the real asset market, when compared to the real business cases that are outside, is probably 1% or something like that. And we will be too optimistic if we think that all these people is going to change the way they are doing the business and shift it to Web3. And this is not going to happen. So we need to reach it the other way around, and we need to slightly introduce the Web3 advantages into the Web2 world or classical world. And Deepin is one of them. So basically, as Peak has developed, this is what we call the hardware wallet. So basically, this hardware device that allows any asset to be converted into an economic independent agent is basically bridging the classic companies, the classic business world with the Web3, and we are not creating something just from zero. We are starting to improve something that is already existing, that there's, by the way, really a lot of money there, and we can improve that and we can make it bigger. So
absolutely. Yeah, and I think in your case, like in mobility, right, there's so much fragmentation. If you want to travel from A to B, you always need to sign up with a different account, you need to book on a different app, and so on and so on. And if you have like all the mobility assets and services on an open network, and you can like book it there, it's seamless, and yeah, it solves a massive problem in that space of moving from A to B and finding the best.
Yeah, it's ultimately a protocol in the sense. So we think of internet, okay, what is internet? All of us are connecting to internet, all of us are using it for different purposes. We understand that mobility at some point should be the same way. Should exist one protocol, anyone can connect to it, and you do not need anything special in order to be able to rent a Tesla car or to take a plane to wherever you want to go. There is one central protocol, not company, protocol, over which you have governance on your own data, and you can control it, you can trust it because it's open source, it's transparent, all the advantages that Web3 brings, but ultimately this should be the goal.
Yeah, absolutely, fully agree. Ali.
Yeah. Before I jump into Natix, just something you said triggered a kind of a thinking in my head, and I've had this also before. You mentioned the word Uber, and I remember when Ubers and Airbnbs came, this shared economy thing kind of came. It was disruptive, right? But yet again, like when I look at that model, it was like a centralized company, Uber and Airbnb, capturing a lot of value, right? And right now, I think what Deepen is doing is essentially new Ubers and Airbnbs of digital infrastructure, right? But it's better. It's much better, because if you look at it in the sense of tokenized, let's say, infrastructure, that means if you're an early contributor into my ecosystem, if you're that first guy in the business model of Uber that is driving for me, or if you're the first sensor that comes into my network in terms of Natix, I'll explain later, I could pay you money, but I could also pay you shares of my company in a way, right? And this is I think much more value, because we are, by the way, we're also trying to create like map data, and you guys all know Waze, right? So when Waze got acquired by Google, who got a fat paycheck? It was the developers and founders of Waze. But if you have used Waze, you know that essentially people who contributed, me and you, and people who are clicking that I saw a police and I saw a speed radar, those guys are the guys who build Waze, right? They didn't see a single dime. Some of them saw some T-shirts probably, like the logo of Waze, but that was it, right? And what we're doing with like Deepen models is that we are, you can earn this kind of, utility token, and this is in a way like, if this goes successful, if our ecosystem goes successful, you have a share in it. Yeah. You will rise with it, and that's how much we value. So it kind of grabs the value from these centralized authorities like Uber and Airbnb, and then it's kind of distributing it even further, not just to the founders and the company, but so to add to that, like what we were doing at Natix, originally we started the company 2020, AI company. We were building AI software for cameras, to use the cameras to create what we call live maps, dynamic maps. For example, you can use cameras in this room to know exactly what is the crowd dynamics, how many people are where, kind of where they're moving and so on. And when we go to public spaces, this is, for example, very useful. And when I said you can build infrastructure 10 to 100 times faster and cheaper with Deepen, we actually had that issue. We were working with CCTV cameras, and then people loved our technology and our solution, but each CCTV camera costs $6,000 to build and deploy. So you're a city, you want to put 2,000 CCTV cameras, it's a heck of a capex that you need to put. And we wanted to scale like every startup does, and we were like, okay, now we need to wait for this budget to get approved, and it's millions of dollars. It's not easy, to get that. So it was our attempt to try to hack it, and try to kind of scale faster, because we said, look, we have a gem, this technology, we really believe in it, we have built it. How can we put it as aggressively into every camera possible, and kind of create something bigger with it? So that's how Natix Network was born, and the idea is very simple. You just you can pretty much join with any camera anywhere in the world. You can run our AI, you can scan the world, 100% privacy compliant. We have a patent on it, actually, a pending patent, sorry. And you earn crypto at the end of the day. And then again, coming from the world of scalability and CCTV cameras, which are very hard to install, we kind of did another plot twist, and we said, okay, what's the camera that everyone has in their with them? What's the most commonly available camera that you probably have in your pocket right now, and you go with it wherever? It's your smartphone, right? So we said, okay, let's try to tap into smartphones, and that's why we built this new application. It's a drive to earn, so to say. So it's for drivers, it's for Uber drivers, taxi drivers, or commuters like us. Just have to download the app, put the phone on the dashboard of your car. As you're driving around, the AI is kind of collecting useful information, like if there's a pothole, how many people are there, how many cars are there, if there's a traffic congestion, and so on. And you earn rewards for that. And that's another thing that I wanted to say. So I think normally Deepen is 10 to 100 times faster to build the infrastructure. I think if you go smartphone deepen is another 10x factor, 100x factor. We proved it after launch of our product. So it's not the silver bullet. It doesn't work with every single scenario. But when it's possible to go with smartphone deepen, it's a much more scalable approach to take. It doesn't work, for example, you cannot get a Tesla on a smartphone, right? You need a Tesla.
Yeah.
But when it works, is a gem.
Yeah, 100%. And it can scale so fast. And what you said before, right? Like, if you would be a central company that tries to capture the entire world and tries to real-world map the entire world, I think that's probably almost impossible. But if you do it community-sourced, crowdsourced, people-powered, actually you can achieve to provide that holistic data set around the world. And what you said before, and this is, I think, the most important part in terms of why this is important, right? We're heading towards the age of automation. It's happening in the US. Driving a car is the most common job that exists. This will be automated in 5 years. So are all those taxi drivers then out of business? And are there big companies, central companies, with a lot of capital that own all the taxi fleets and earn all the money? Or can we build deepen models where everyone can invest in those machines and earn from them? Everyone can drive to earn. Everyone can offer decentralized Uber rides and so on, right? So this is super important in order to democratize this age of automation. And
can I? Sorry, you were first.
So there's something beyond the economic factor, which is definitely there. I mean, sharing the revenue with the participants, giving them governance at some point is definitely good enough, let's say, but there is something beyond that. For example, in the Uber case, apart from the commissions that they are getting that are excessive, up to 30%, if you do not know, we can reduce that with our platform to 2%, so the difference is already huge. But there is something more, as I said, beyond the economic component, and it's the freedom of business. If you are in Uber, you need to accept terms and conditions, and ultimately terms and conditions, Uber is telling you how much you are allowed to charge for a specific service. And that's all. I mean, if you want to be in Uber, they are calculating the price and you need to swallow that. That's all. With our solution, and many others there, we're giving freedom to the people that is operating the business. So why me, as a taxi driver, should be offering a service at the price that you want? Why do I don't have the freedom to select or to decide at which price I'm selling myself and my work? And this, with the big corporates, is not happening. With Deepin, we can do it. With our platform, we do it. And this is also a way to empower the business to make it more free, let's say, and ultimately dependent on the person.
Absolutely.
When you were talking about Uber and all these things, like, I think the magic actually lies then in the crowd, because what you can actually do, and I see this myself all the time, you have like a really tight relationship between your customers, and I mean, there always needs to be like someone to be in charge to do something, but you have like a super close relationship. And if you compare it like to Kickstarter, you just order something, you wait, and you hope it will be good, but in the end it's shit, basically, and it happens several times. And now you take like a proven business and you include your customers, you get like direct feedback, you build up a community, they are part of your game, and that is so much stronger than anything else that is here right now, because everything else is like scaled by venture capital and everything. But now, let's say crypto adoption is huge and people are going into it and I'm not afraid of it, then something like this can actually scale indefinitely, because it's like, then you have brand ambassadors, people going out telling like, your brand is awesome, like, just drive with this or use this camera or whatever, right? So I think that is in the end the magic, that you can actually fractionalize ownership, build like a tight relationship between your company and maybe an asset, for example. And then both parties needs to succeed, right? I mean, the company also needs to be successful, because if the company is not successful, people are not successful, right? And I think there basically lies the magic, that relationship that starts to, like this contract that is generated at the moment people are buying tokens of something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to quickly add there, like the massive problem it solved for you, usually car sharing or those things, people treat the assets very badly, right?
Yeah, so as a car sharer, like there is no emotional relationship at all, right? You're just like, okay, I need a car, I drive somewhere. But now we have like people that really say, okay, I believe in this, I believe in the mission, I want to participate, right? And what we saw over like 1.5 years, like they were starting to clean cars. They bring back cars in hot zones where they make more revenue. They use the cars that are tokenized to make longer trips, so they participate in the revenue stream more. For us, basically, there was the proof of like, now we have super users, right? People that are going out telling everybody, hey, you need to use eLoop. And I mean, I always hope that this is the case, and I never know it's going to be, but that actually happened in the end. And yeah, again, I still think this is the magic, like that you can actually grow a company, and also you don't need to give away much to equity. Actually, you can use the assets to drive the growth, and I really like that. Yeah.
Awesome. All of you are operating, I mean, you are operating locally. Both of you are kind of open globally, blockchain. But would you say there are markets that are faster to adopt, easier to adopt? Maybe starting with you, Dani.
Yes, definitely. So we started here in Germany. As you said, we're coming from Daimler, so big corporate, all the style. And now we are live in Nigeria. So it's kind of a complete different situation. And why are we live there? Because the biggest enemy of progress is good enough. And in Germany, Europe, we have all the services granted. We have public transportation, we have car rentals, and so on. But there are countries that have nothing of that. So if you go here to a German guy and say, hey, download a new app, do the onboarding process, download a crypto wallet, blah, 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 it is going to take 5 minutes, the expectation of improvement is probably zero because the system that they already have is good enough. Mm-hmm. But in Nigeria, for example, mobility is a pain for the people there. So even if you can improve them like just 2%, they will do the effort to do that. And this works on the mobility side on one side, and this works also on the Web3 or crypto in the other side, because these countries have really big economic problems like inflation. I mean, Argentina, South America is our next step. Argentina has like 100% inflation per year. We're getting crazy in Europe for 7%, so just imagine. Mm-hmm. Government is also limiting the withdrawals from the bank. The government is also limiting the exchange to dollars or wherever. So also the economic factor and how to play with the money is a problem from them. So if you can solve both scenarios within one solution, they are not just going to embrace it, but they are going to push for it. So it is much more than welcome, and definitely a better place to start and create adoption than more established countries like Europe, US, Australia, and so on.
For sure. Yeah, people are much more eager to try new things, earn revenue here and there. Yeah, Ali, how is it for you guys?
I think, especially when I look at, I mean, you guys are doing more like ride sharing and let's say mobility, very specific applications. But when I look at, let's say, sensors and communication infrastructure, it was very interesting for me because on one side, when you look into regions, I give you two very extreme examples. Let's compare Indonesia with or Philippines with the US, right? The cost of your user acquisition or the friction is much lower in Indonesia and Philippines because and also the amount of money that would be life-changing for them for the same data. Let's say in our case, you're generating traffic congestion data, right? You detect it, you sell it to someone. Is much lower, and in the country like US, for example, the cost of data is higher, but also you can monetize it for higher. So this is something I would say every region have its own advantages in terms of a deepen, but you're absolutely right. We also felt that in certain, let's say, less developed countries, the speed of adoption of deepen is just much faster. But that's also like when you look at the play to earn narrative that was last year, which is gone by the way right now from gaming. It was like that. It was like the countries, less developed countries were picking it up because at the end of the day, for them to make another $5 or $10 per day, it was live. People were quitting their jobs, to do that. It sounds crazy to us in Europe, but that was actually happening. I cannot convince a taxi driver to put Natix on for 10 cents a day. You know, that's in Germany. It's going to be very, very hard. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I think locality, each region has its own advantages and disadvantages. But one thing that is very important for me is that it's also not right. I've seen in many projects, deep-in projects, that they go like full scale globally, you know, kind of super decentralized. And this is one of the mistakes that I saw. I don't know why we don't learn sometimes from these mistakes that other projects do. Sometimes just copy paste one model to another one. Because if you have one guy running, let's say, Natix or a helium miner in an island, whatever, Ibiza, or now Ibiza is a good island, actually. They have a lot of guys. But why would it matter to the network? Why that guy should get the same reward as, you know, where you have like a full-blown coverage in, let's say, a city like, I don't know, New York, for example, right? It shouldn't matter. It should adjust for these kind of things. And then projects also should focus, you know, maybe regions to regions and then scale like that. Yeah, we're also trying to have such an approach as well. So kind of have focal region. We're worldwide open, but we do have very, you know, specific countries and cities that we are targeting to, you know, to grow our networks on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Frederick, I mean, for you guys, it's easier.
I guess we are the most local case there. So we only in Vienna, but I think of one side, I can now go to Copenhagen and people tell me, yeah, can I participate now? And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then if I go then to Vienna, can I drive with these cars? Yes, you can. So that's pretty much that local approach. But what I think is more interesting is now we can tap into markets. We can, for example, make pre-sales, and then if it's not going to work out, if there is no demand, if people don't need this service, we would just like not go there, right? So we can decide the crowd is a service, like for example, eLoop, but there are other use cases. Is that needed in this city? Do they want this? And then we just check if we're going to get this liquidity to start there or bootstrap it. And then you have like a complete different dynamic. You don't need just to go into a market and hope that people are using your service. You know already, okay, I already have my brand ambassadors, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. We do have not as much time anymore as I thought, but I have 3 questions for you guys still. Let's try to keep it as concise as possible. And yeah, jumping into, quickly, like I wanted to ask you, Frederick, those high value assets that you have, like how, like you solved the big problem there, I think. Maybe could you explain quickly how you made it possible that now people can actually earn and own a part of a car sharing fleet?
Yeah, so quickly speaking, we tokenized a part of the revenue. So every car with every trip, it makes some money, and then we cut costs, and then eventually the token holders equally how much they invested, they will get a portion of that revenue, and that is done daily, so that we basically have like the costs cutted, and yeah, that's basically how it works. Yeah.
Amazing. Danny, you're thinking, or that you're in the process now, right? Like, okay, Nigeria was the start, but now also going back to Europe, different markets. Maybe a few words on this.
Yeah, the good thing is that this is software, right? So you can sell it as many times as you want, and as far as you can find a spot with similar characteristics, the implementation, of course, there's some hassle to solve, some business development to be done, but the fit is exactly the same. So if the approach works in Nigeria, the approach would work in Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Chile. I just mentioned these countries because we're already in conversations to go live there. So yes, the fit is exactly the same. The solution is more or less the same, and this is also one of the benefits of the Web3, that is really scalable in that direction.
Absolutely. So we, of course, need to bring in some AI. Ali, the intersection between AI and DeepIn is super interesting. Could you tell us a few things?
Yeah, so I think they're kind of inseparable. They're not 100%, you know, the same, but essentially the way that I look at it is that AI needs infrastructure for training and for inference, for running the AI. And that's where DeepIn comes in. You see projects like Render, you see you know, Akash and so on for cloud computing. And then on the other side, DeepIn generates a lot of data, or it has to do a lot with data. Almost any business these days have to do with data, but specifically DeepIn. So AI is basically the bread and butter whenever you are dealing with data. And I think something that you mentioned, so either you're like processing the sensor data that is generated, but also you can use AI for, like, let's say for anti-cheating mechanisms that you have it in your deepen, you know, to kind of find the faulty nodes and bad actors and so on. So it's really wide as AI gets anywhere in our lives, but it's also quite applicable in deepen as well. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. Oh, time is over already. Thanks so much to all of you. I really enjoyed the conversation, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.